Amendment number 13, printed in House Report number 118-4, offered by Mr. Perry of Pennsylvania.
Pursuant to House Resolution 166, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Chairman. As we all should know by now, this bill requires the President to consider, for any major executive order, the impact of the executive order on inflation. I mean, the President is the President of the United States, and the well-being of every citizen should be of the President's concern, and I believe it is. When the American people have been suffering this inflation for years, it makes sense to require the President, no matter which party, to at least consider the impact of his actions on the American people, because they don't have any choice in the matter till the next election. This amendment requires for executive orders that are found to have an impact on the consumer price index, we got to have some measure, right? And most people recognize the consumer price index, which is a detailed description of that impact, so that we can all be on the same page, so that we can all reference the same data point. Folks, this is common sense, and it's reasonable. The way this bill is currently written, I support the bill. The statement prepared by the President must simply include whether it has an impact on inflation. And maybe the impact is to lower inflation. That would be awesome. I think we're going to have to wait a couple years until we get a president that actually does that. But, okay, so be it. We'll accept that. Even this legislation under a new president that lowers the cost of inflation by executive order. But the current bill doesn't talk about the extent of the impact, which is what this amendment seeks to remedy. This amendment requires that statement to provide actual information to the extent of the impact regarding the consumer price index. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I urge adoption of this amendment, and I reserve the balance.
The gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentleman from Maryland seek?
Claiming time in opposition, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
Thank you kindly. I'm afraid I remain unilluminated as to what that amendment will do. Apparently, the purpose is to require a more detailed or technical description of the projected impact when an assessment required by the bill finds that there will be some inflationary effect. Again, this sounds like it's simply adding more bureaucracy, more paperwork with no return on investment for the taxpayer dollars that it would obviously take to conduct such an analysis. I mean, here we've gone for more than 2 centuries with apparently no economist arguing that what we really need to stop inflation is more reporting in the process of issuance of executive orders by presidents of the United States. And suddenly, somebody had a great epiphany over there without even a legislative hearing that what was really needed was just for the President of the United States to append an inflationary statement to executive orders at the rate of $1 billion, perhaps to be amended to $1 million, or who knows, it's 50 million or 100 million. But it doesn't make any difference because there's no data behind any of it. There's no analysis behind any of it. You may as well spin a wheel and pick a number at which a report is going to be compelled by the majority here for the so-called REIN-In Act, which stands for the Reduce Exacerbated Inflation Negatively Impacting the Nation Act, which could go by other titles, including the Running on Empty Index, No New Ideas, None Act, since basically they're scraping the bottom to try to figure out something to say about inflation because the administration is actually bringing inflation down. Now, we notice they don't talk about unemployment, which used to be their mantra, jobs, jobs, jobs. But when Joe Biden came back and created 12 million new jobs after the last administration destroyed millions of jobs with their lethal recklessness in the mismanagement of the coronavirus pandemic, and Joe Biden turned it around in this administration, they stopped talking about it. But they did notice that there was global inflation going on because of the disruption of the global supply chain and because of Vladimir Putin's filthy imperialist invasion of Ukraine, which some of their members actually are cheerleaders for. There was a real problem with inflation, and the administration has steadily been bringing it down. which is why it doesn't have quite the political salience it used to, but the world was waiting with bated breath to determine what would their actual plan be, and alas, their whole plan is a reporting requirement, nothing to do with Congress and Congress being able to do anything, but a reporting requirement for the president when he issues executive orders. I think the public is gravely disappointed by this complete collapse of any real commitment to the one issue they thought they had organized their conference around. I reserve.
Gentleman reserve.